He's two times world championship in Formula 1. To miss the braking point like he did, it's unbelievable.
Accelerating out to the next corner, and in the middle of the corner he came full power straight into my car.
And look at this, all the Audis are coming in. Sensation here in Barcelona. He has instructed all his drivers to retire from this race because of the tactics, as he sees it, of Mercedes-Benz.
Barcelona, Europe's largest metropolis on a Mediterranean coast. The first city to receive an RIBA gold medal for its architecture, and in the year 2007, the penultimate race in the DTM season. The DTM being the German Touring Car Championship, a series with its ups and downs. Starting as the DRM in 72, before becoming the DTM in 85 due to the DRM becoming too expensive. Evolving into the ITC for 95 and 96, before becoming too expensive yet again, with German touring car racing seemingly being at an end. At least until the year 2000, when a new DTM started, going more or less strong to this very day, despite the change from touring cars to GT3 cars in 2021, making it direct competition to the German ADAC GT Masters. Until just recently in 2022, when the ADAC took ownership of the DTM series.
So where was I? Oh, that's right. Barcelona.
While it did start with 3 brands, in 2007, the DTM consisted of only 2 manufacturers, Audi and Mercedes. A historic rivalry we won't get into further detail with. Mercedes only had Bruno Spengler left as a realistic candidate to win the championship, but he'd need some luck to beat Matthias Ekström and Martin Tomczyk and move the championship decider into the last race of the season. The chances were slim. Frankly, he'd need a miracle to get that done. It's lights out and away we go, as Tomczyk blasts off right away. Christensen spins, but everyone is able to avoid him, a stark contrast to the first race of the season. Second lap, same spot, and Susie Stoddard decides to show that anything Tom Christensen can do, she can do better. The race continues, and at this point, 2-time F1 champion Mika Häkkinen shows his skill, chasing after the Audi of Martin Tomczyk. There's a reason he won the pinnacle of motorsports 2 times after all. During this time, the DTM used the tilted camera angle a lot, which I'm not too sure what to think about. It's something different, but that doesn't always equal good. But hey, let's check back on Häkkinen and Tomczyk. Ouch. So in a moment that admittedly looks debatable on whether it was an unlikely mistake or deliberate action, the Finnish F1 champ bonks Tomczyk off the track and himself pretty much out of the race. And just like that, Bruno Spengler is in the lead. Meanwhile, Christian Opt and Gary Paffett decide to cover for him. Tomczyk, fighting his way back up the field, now gets into a very rough situation with Matthias Lauda, which reminds me of my worst encounters in Grid Autosport Online. Touring car racing has always been full contact, but this seems a bit rough. Throughout the race, Matthias Ekström made a great effort moving up the field, but that was until he crossed paths with Daniel LaRosa, who after initial contact decides to torpedo himself into Ekström, taking out one of the 2 Audi championship contenders. While Häkkinen's desperation mistake, if unlikely for an experienced driver, at least looks like an accident, LaRosa's actions on first glance look very deliberate. After 34 laps of driving, the damages on Tomczyk's car force him to retire, meaning both Audi contenders are out of the race. The championship decider is officially moved to the final race of the season. Back in the racing, yet another Audi is out after a collision with a Mercedes. So at this point, there's a pattern to notice. Mercedes cars, point contenders or not, drive aggressively and at times take out Audis. And then, in a moment I've never seen before nor since, the Audi team rage quits and pulls all its remaining cars, all 5 of them, out of the race. The rest of it at this point becomes almost a side note because of that, but for fairness sake, here's the results. Jamie Green won, followed by Bruno Spengler and Paul di Resta. Mercedes taking home a very easy 1-2-3. Post-race, Audi's head of motorsport, Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich, explained his call to retire all his cars, stating,
"We came here to Barcelona hoping for a great race, a great and fair race for the championship. The two guys that have been contenders for the championship from our team have been pushed from the racetrack in a way that I don't think that should be done. It's not our style. And then I had to take the decision to take my cars out of the race."
Counter-argument-wise, Mercedes' HOM, Norbert Haug, who I used to see all the time in everything I watched motorsport-wise as a kid, explained,
I cannot understand this action. I mean, it just happened when we were 1 through 3. I don't know whether this is coincidence, no idea. Mika was very optimistic in his maneuver, but I have to stress that he was much faster. And if you are in the lead and you are much faster and you are attacked, then you probably need to open the door dramatically. I do not criticize Martin Tomczyk. Mika was too optimistic, but you are in danger of being overtaken if a car behind you is much faster.
Yeah, no offense, but basically being like, if you see the car behind you is faster, pull over, is kind of a shitty take. In the aftermath of the race, from what I was able to research all those years later, Häkkinen and La Rosa got penalized for the accidents. Both being taken out of the race results, sorta a non-factor since they didn't finish the race, got a 10-place grid penalty for the final race, and were fined 20 and 10,000 euro respectively. Mika Häkkinen, who was given the harshest penalty in DTM history, openly spoke about how he felt like he wasn't treated fairly, and that decisions like this take the fun out of motorsport for him. It's generally rumored that this was the reason he retired from racing afterwards. Daniel La Rosa also didn't return to the DTM after 2007, however it was more about contract problems and no agreement coming together. Nowadays, he works as a sales consultant for Porsche, which is quite a way to go. But what about the 3 possible championship contenders, and who of them left the last race on top? Martin Tomczyk remained in the DTM until 2016, winning the Drivers' Championship once, however not in 2007, but in 2011. He did, however, win a destruction race in a show event called the Stock Car Crash Challenge 1 year after the Barcelona race, which I find ironic. Bruno Spengler remained in the DTM until 2019, never winning the championship in a Mercedes. However, once he moved to a BMW team in 2012, he won his first and only DTM championship. He is still actively driving, going into the IMSA in 2020, and most recently becoming a driver in the ETCR. Which leaves us with Matthias Ekström, 2-time DTM champion, once in 2004 and once in the year 2007. He's the one that made it, staying in the DTM until 2017, but that wasn't his only endeavor. Sporadically, he also drove rallies and rallycross, recently driving in the Extreme E and the Rally Dakar, which is somehow still called that despite no longer being anywhere near Dakar. So, in conclusion, researching this entire story was a quite interesting experience, because while I started looking at the things, I had a clear mindset telling me that this was a case of Mercedes kind of manipulating the race. But looking back and thinking about everything that played into it, Mika Häkkinen maybe really just having been the driver who took a too high risk, and Daniel La Rosa being a rookie driver who might have just made a mistake. I'm really not sure anymore whether or not this was actually just an unhappy coincidence for everybody involved. And just the next race, one of the Audi cars ran out of fuel and blocked some of the Mercedes, so the DTM is really no stranger to sketchy decision making from one car manufacturer against the other, which is not helped by the fact that, as I said, during this time era there was only 2 car manufacturers in the DTM. So obviously you're gonna have some us versus them kind of thing. And things are gonna quite quickly look like it was deliberate actions. But yeah, it was a learning experience, this one. And I hope that for the future, I'm gonna be able to pull some more experience